not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for tuning in with us here, 4 o'clock hour on a Thursday. If you're one of these 9 to 5ers, you've got 53 minutes and 35 seconds until you hit that 5 o'clock bell, and I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here as we're giving attention to, and perhaps we're even going to spark a little conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, you know, as a previous listener to this show, we're talking on any number of subjects. We're going to be looking at a variety of different things today. Lots in the news right now. Markets are very much top of the headline, top of the fold kinds of stories. We're going to be looking at specific companies, certainly sectors, industries, those kinds of entities, which may be doing well right now and maybe in a little bit more of a challenging space. But in doing so, you recall, as a previous listener to Dollars and Cents, that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're going to be talking about some things, again, positively, other things, maybe not so positively, that again, that everybody's situation is unique. We strongly encourage you to reach out to your tax advisor, your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group. Love to chat with you. Love to hear about your particular financial journey. See if there are ways in which we might be able to.
Online, you can find us again at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us your email address, phone number, let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you. Again, at northmainfinancial.com. All right, let's get it. Man, I don't know if you've been watching any business news this week. Well, hopefully you haven't. If you have, you certainly know what I'm going to be talking about here next. Lots of things coming out of the White House, lots of things coming out economically. We're going to be talking a lot about them here over the course of this hour. And in doing so, we're going to be looking at it from several different angles because there's a lot of things that a lot of folks are trying to push out from a narrative standpoint, talking about where things are economically right now, what that means in terms of market performance, what we're expecting out there. But we're going to be taking a look at it from a couple of different angles. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about it. All right, let's get into the heavy aspect of things. Let's talk about markets. If you're looking at market-wise, where things have been here over the last couple of weeks, tough to say it's been pleasant, especially if you're in the more aggressive end of the markets. If you're a market index kind of person, if you're the kind of person who's been looking at where things are, S&P 500 index, Dow Jones Industrial Average, less so. NASDAQ Composite, brutal. You've been feeling it here over the last couple of weeks. And so when we're looking at it performance-wise, and you're saying, okay, is this the new normal? Is this the kind of thing that we should expect for the balance of the year? Even can we get through the end of April as far as what the kind of performance is concerned here in terms of what we're looking at for growth possibilities or loss possibilities? It's a fair question. I understand why you're saying that, but we need to broaden our focus here a little bit. We're going to be talking a lot about that today because if you look at the news headlines, you look at those kinds of things that are coming out of D.C., you might think, oh my gosh, everything is just in a terrible place right now. Folks, that's just not true. It's not true that everything is terrible right now. As a matter of fact, if you broaden your focus, if you take a look at some things that are a little bit wider than just what may be pulsing through your business news headlines, you're going to see all kinds of things that are out there. And wait for it, you're going to see some things out there that are actually quite green, quite positive. You don't have to believe me. That's all right. Take a look at this a little bit deeper. Go into it a little bit and take a look at the utility sector. Take a look at the large end of consumer staples. Take a look at oil and energy right now. You're going to see some things out there that are actually, from a year-to-date standpoint, are doing very, very well. And that's very, very important to keep in mind because right now what's pulsing through the index end of things is very, very negative. Now, remember, as I'm saying that to you, remember that we were talking about towards the end of last year, pretty much throughout the entirety of Q1 of this year, saying, look, these indexes, they are computed in certain ways. And when they're computed in certain ways, they are weighted. Dow Jones Industrial Average price weighted, S&P 500 index is market cap weighted. When you're looking at that, then you're going to have the most expensive per share stocks, Dow Jones Industrial Average. You're going to have the largest by market capitalization stocks, S&P 500 index, which are influencing those indexes in significantly, I'm going to call them inappropriately weighted ways. So when you're looking at what's actually happening in the market, you're actually looking at a fairly small sliver of stocks, which are indicating where those indexes are going. And we're seeing that. I know nobody wants to listen to that whenever the indexes are doing spectacularly well, which is what the kind of conversations I was having at the end of last year. Now, interestingly, not interestingly, it's very predictable that folks are starting to pay attention to that now, because now you're starting to see where those same stocks are influencing the entire index in the negative. And that's very, very important to keep in mind. So when you're looking at it, you're saying, "Oh my gosh, the whole market is doing terribly. I don't know where." Just broaden your scope. Take a look at the entirety of what's happening market-wise right now. As I said, oil and energy, not every stock, definitely not true if you look across the entire sector. But if you look at a significant portion of them, doing quite well right now. Utilities, yeah. I know, boring, unattractive to a lot of folks. I get it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of allure sometimes to the utility end of things right now. But take a look at their year-to-date returns: 3, 4, 5% to the positive. A lot of attraction there. Foreign stocks, international stocks, let's call them ex-US or outside of the US right now. Not every company, not every sector, but almost across the board in terms of, let's call them the major industrialized countries around the world. You're looking at 4%, 5%, 6%, even higher level of returns again here year to date in the first quarter. So very, very interesting, very important to keep in mind. I mean, I'm going to tease you a little bit here because we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the second quarter of today's show. That's actually very attractive to me from a market standpoint. Very, very attractive that we're seeing not just the entire market moving in sync. That's not healthy. I know it's attractive when everything's moving in the positive direction. A lot of folks like that. I'm not going to take away from that at all. But when I'm looking at the market overall and you're looking at how things should move, they should look a lot like the pistons in an 8-cylinder engine. All right, you folks who know your cars, not all the pistons move in all the same directions at all the same times. There should be some variation between that, right? So when we need more power, you got pistons moving more in sync. When we need less power, those pistons are moving a little bit in inverse directions. That's exactly what we should have in a healthy market. So we're going to be watching for that, hoping that kind of diversity continues here in the market, because that's more an indication of a healthier kind of space when it comes to the kind of performance that we're seeing overall in the market. It's I know it's high on the radar screen. We're going to be talking about it a lot today. I introed today's conversation about it. We're going to be speaking more about it as we go through all 4 segments of today's show. Probably going to put in a little bit about food and football in there as well. You know how this works. You're on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Hang with us. We're going to hear from our sponsors coming back in a few moments here on WSIC.
And Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, as we continue to work our way toward the weekend, the warmth will continue to build as well. The extra clouds still hanging around for a good chunk of your Thursday, but a bit more sunshine is back this afternoon. Temperatures warming up to finish things off around 80. We'll only fall back into the mid and upper 60s overnight. And are you ready for a little taste of early summer warmth? We're going to warm up close to 90 for your Friday. We could even be in the low 90s around the lake Saturday afternoon. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Greystone Lodge in Boone.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Friday night is the season opener for the Live Under the Oaks outdoor concert series at Birkdale Village in Huntersville. Grab your friends, family, and your lawn chairs as weekly music returns to the plaza each Friday through October. Red Rocks will be on site for beverages, and the Birkdale restaurants will be open for your Friday night dinner. The Walter Family Band performance, powered by Waves Entertainment, kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday at Birkdale Village in Huntersville with the season premiere of Live Under the Oaks. The 500 Club in Statesville presents a weekend full of fun. On Friday, Members Happy Hour begins at 5 p.m. Also enjoy the day with Glow Golf Loop. Saturday night at midnight, enjoy a good old-fashioned drive-in movie. Call 704-872-9990 or visit the 500 Club online for more details and enjoy your weekend at the 500 Club in Statesville. The Auto Fair, presented by Camping World, is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway Thursday through Saturday. The show brings together the car community in a celebration of their shared passion for all things automotive. Don't miss the Heritage Invitational, where iconic cars from all eras are gathered for up-close viewing. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for Auto Fair tickets and more information. On Saturday, come celebrate the 5th year anniversary at Lost Worlds Brewing in Cornelius. A DJ and coffee will kick off the day at 9 a.m., while live music begins at 1 p.m. Enjoy drink specials, multiple food trucks, and free admission. We'll see you Saturday at Lost Worlds Brewing in Cornelius for their 5th year anniversary party. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Now more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter football reference of today's show. Appreciate you hanging with us. We're talking all things markets today. I'm probably going to blend in some football to it. I mean, we don't have the calendar quite yet, which I'm going to have to speak to producer Reese about this. We got to have a calendar up here where we start marking off days with big red X's until we get to the beginning of football training camp, because that's, I mean, we got to have a countdown, right? We got to do that because we're going to make folks aware of what that's going to be. Now, that's not to take away from any of our sports right now. A lot of folks focusing on baseball, which they should, right? I mean, it's the beginning of baseball season. It's an exciting time. And I just saw this. This just came across my my Twitter feed, not Twitter, I know, X feed, that there was a catcher. So a catcher, the position of catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, hit 3 home runs in one game. Holy smokes. 3 home runs in one. I mean, that's Johnny Bench. He wasn't Cardinals. He was Cincinnati Reds. That's Johnny Bench style stuff. If you don't know who Johnny Bench is, then you know how old I am relative to making that kind of reference here. But exciting stuff when it comes to the beginning of the baseball season as well. But we were talking towards the end, frankly, the whole segment, if we're being truthful about it, the first segment talking about where the market has been here and the kinds of things on which the market is focusing. We got to spend a lot of time on that. I get it. Tons of calls, tons of emails, text messages. I get it. Especially, I mean, literally as we were coming into, starting today's show, a pretty negative move in the market overall. If you look at it on a percentage basis, didn't look at it within the few minutes before I came online here today, but we were down between 3 and 5% in our most popular stock indices in a single day of movement. Now, folks, that's a lot of movement. It's a lot of movement in a single day. I mean, certainly with us at North Main Financial Group, we're looking at, an annualized return kind of goal for most folks in that 5 to 7% range. When you have anything that moves 5 to 7% in a single day, that's a lot. That's a lot of movement. So what does that mean? Is that a reason for us to be concerned? Because obviously it was in the negative today. The market was moving in I'll call it in reaction to the announcements made from the Oval Office yesterday after the market closed. There was a significant amount of negative movement immediately after those announcements were made, and then that carried over in the overnight markets, overseas markets, literally just moving across the globe, looking at not only what was happening in Europe, but also what was happening in the Far East as we came around the international timeline and to get started here today. Yeah, it's a reason for certainly paying attention to it. Is it a reason for concern? Is it a reason for you to change your overall philosophy as far as what your investment style and strategy is? I hope not. I hope not. That's not the reason why you're going to be making any significant changes. These aren't surprises. These are the kinds of things that have been talked about here for the last 8 weeks or so, a couple of months. I mean, insofar as the date itself was concerned, this news conference that came out yesterday, this was announced at least, to my knowledge, 30 days in advance. So it wasn't a surprise kind of space or something that was, oh, we didn't anticipate that the Oval Office was going to talk about this, or this, all the subject matter, even the level at which it was going to be discussed was roundly circulated among the most popular news outlets and media outlets. So there wasn't a whole lot of surprise when it came to that end of things. But the market certainly took it in the negative, and it was kind of interesting. So when you look at today's kind of performance in reaction to that, does that mean that the market is weaker than anticipated? Does that mean that there was more surprise to the announcements than what was forecast from those who were spilling it out there and preparing folks for what was going to take place? All of those things at some level and measure, smaller and larger, probably are true. Excuse me. But in terms of what that should mean for your overall investment picture, we're going to be talking about this a lot today. And yeah, I'm going to bring in some anecdotal things as well. Probably going to talk about food, especially very, very good food and good collaborations that we'll be talking about later in today's show. But in terms of what it should mean for your overall investment picture, no, it shouldn't. We talk constantly here on Dollars and Cents about the importance of maintaining financial flexibility in your overall financial plan. Now, look, I get it. When things are doing well and when the markets are moving in the positive and your portfolios are increasing, those things that you're buying, appreciate in value. Not a whole lot of folks are paying attention to it. I get it. I mean, 30 years in this business. I know you can't tell because you think I look like I'm 28 years old, especially if you're watching me on the socials here. Which, by the way, if you're not on the WSIC app, make sure you get over there to the Google Store, the Apple Store. Make sure that you download the WSIC app. Make sure that you bring that onto your phone. You never have to worry about whether it's you're in the range of being able to get it on the radio station feed. You can always pull it up no matter where you are. You're traveling somewhere. Definitely want to pull that up so that you can take opportunity to listen to us no matter where we are, and make sure that you download that. So again, on the Apple Store, Google Store, make sure that you get the WSIC app. But if you're seeing me here and you're looking at that, you should have that. You should have that financial flexibility. You should have that in your plan. Again, it's easy to do that whenever things are doing very, very well. But you want to be especially mindful of that during times like this. There are stocks out there right now, especially some of the more popular ones. You know it if you own some of these things that have pulled back 20%, 30%, 40%, even more from where they were. And that's a big number. Because a lot of these stocks, they're not the obscure stocks. These aren't the kind of stocks that very few people own or are not very popular. I'm going to give you some names. Yeah, you better hold on here. You're going to give you some names. Apple. Yeah, Apple, one of the most widely held stocks on the planet, down about 20% off its highs, actually even more after today. Amazon, about 20% off of its highs. Google, I know. I mean, these are the big ones. Google, about 20% off of its highs. Hold on to this. Tesla, about 45% off of its highs. I mean, folks, those are huge numbers. Again, we're not talking about startup companies. We're not talking about the kinds of things that are more, let's call them pure speculation. I mean, these are the kinds of stocks that are owned by a multitude of institutional firms that are owned by a multitude of very large investors, including literally tens of millions of retail investors, whether directly or indirectly through funds that they own. I mean, we're talking about big, big numbers here. Very big deal. When you're looking at that's why we talk about this kind of stuff. That's why it's so important. Understand what you own. Now, am I saying that Tesla and Apple and Amazon, those are bad companies? No, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is understand that if something appreciates, I'm looking at some of the things that have just gone up exponentially here. I'll bring NVIDIA into the mix as well. Absolutely will do that. Down about 35% off of its size. When you're looking at the things that you own, understand why you own them and then what the appropriateness is within your portfolio. Just because something has appreciated exponentially inside of your portfolio doesn't mean that, in and of itself, as a reasoning, is a reason to hold on to it at the same level that you did previously. Let me call it differently. And you hear me say this with some regularity. It's never wrong to grab your gains. It really isn't. Now, you're at the counter argument, probably from other advisors and other investment managers. Well, you're going to miss out on the opportunity cost on future appreciation. Yes, you are. Absolutely you are. I'm not talking about selling even all of the position. I'm not even saying that selling all of an appreciated position is an appropriate thing for you to do. What I'm saying is give it consideration and I know you're going to hear me say this again, don't think in straight lines. Don't do it. We're getting another lesson in that right now, folks. You don't have to believe me. I mean, it's amazing how the market moves with unbelievable predictability, because we do think in straight lines. When the market is appreciating, especially in certain stocks, certain sectors, certain holdings, we, the market, assume that it's going to continue to move in that direction in perpetuity. It's amazing. We did it again. Here most recently. If you look at the end of last year, end of 2024, you look at the top 5 holdings in terms of the number of trades, the number of volume, the amount of volume, that were made in those top 5 trades. Absolutely. The largest number of traders and the largest amount of volume was happening all at the end of last year in those things which had appreciated the most. I know I say that with frequency, and I know I say that. Okay, I'll say it in a slightly negative way. Folks, you got to pay attention to that kind of thing. If you're buying something simply because it has appreciated in value, that is not a strategy, that is guessing. And that's very, very important to keep in mind. We're seeing the negative downside of that right now, because it's among the most popular names. Let me put it another way, and I'm going to talk about this more in the third segment of today's show. There are segments of the market. I just mentioned a little bit at the front end of the first segment. There are segments of the market right now that are doing amazingly well. When I say amazingly, okay, I'm not talking about 30, 40% in the first quarter of this year. But what I am saying is they've had notably green year-to-dates, meaning they've had notable appreciation, 4, 5, 6, 7%, maybe even 10% year-to-date returns, as opposed to the other end of the market, where most folks, a lot of folks, certainly the news outlets are paying the most attention, are notably negative, 10, 20, 30, 40% to the negative on that end of things. But it's not true that that's what's happening with everything. And I'll share with you a little nugget here. I'm going to talk about this more in the second half of today's show. That actually is what makes a healthy market. If everything was moving in exactly the same way, that's not a healthy market. So the fact, you heard me again say this, I'm going to keep coming at it. The fact that we have things moving in a divergent way in different sectors of the market is actually an indication of a healthier market. I know not a lot of that out there right now, but we're going to talk more about it as we come back in the second half of today's show. I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Coming back in a few moments on WSIC.
Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi following these brief messages on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, as we continue to work our way toward the weekend, the warmth will continue to build as well. The extra clouds still hanging around for a good chunk of your Thursday, but a bit more sunshine is back this afternoon. Temperatures warming up to finish things off around 80. We'll only fall back into the mid and upper 60s overnight. And are you ready for a little taste of early summer warmth? We're going to warm up close to 90 for your Friday. We could even be in the low 90s around the lake Saturday afternoon. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Hey folks, you know Randy Marion is the king of price when it comes to buying a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle. But how about king of price when it comes to the service department? Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville has you covered on tires, brakes, batteries, wipers, you name it. Any service you need on your vehicle, regardless of the make or model, come see Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville Service Department or Randy Marion Ford Lincoln Service Department today.
Have you taken the Desco Challenge? The people have spoken. Desco is where the professional goes for electrical supplies.
Hi, my name is Randy. I'm a general contractor, and I always trust the products at Desco.
See for yourself at DescoInc.com.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
Babe, dinner's ready.
Ladies.
Babe, dinner's ready.
Ever feel like your husband just isn't listening?
Dinner's ready.
Maybe he just can't hear.
Babe.
It's time to turn up the volume on life. Beltone in Mooresville and Cornelius can help with a free hearing test and expert solutions tailored for you. Call 877-HEAR-123 today. That's 877-HEAR-123. Don't wait. Call 877-432-7123 and bring back the sound of love.
Would you like to change your health situation? Improve your current health with a wellness consultation with me, Fred Lowry, pharmacist and doctor of natural medicine. I'll work with you to reach your individual goals. This includes a review of your current medications, supplements, diet, and lifestyle choices. This is a progressive way to improve your current health position for your future. Great for individuals or couples wanting to make improvement. Call me at Lowry Drug in Statesville, 704-873-2247.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. It is a rough day for Wall Street. Markets are down the most since spring of 2020. We're seeing losses between 3.7 and 5.7%. Foreign leaders are pushing back on President Trump's tariff moves. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says they will put 25% retaliatory duties on U.S.-made vehicles. French President Emmanuel Macron is urging companies to pause U.S. investments. He's also urging the European Union to target U.S. tech and services. Germany's vice chancellor has said Trump's decision is comparable to the war of aggression against Ukraine, and Robert Habeck goes on to say the, quote, magnitude and determination of the response must be commensurate. EU trade ministers are due to meet April 7th to discuss their response. President Trump, when asked about his reaction, said he thinks it's going very well. He adds every nation is looking for a deal. He says the market and the country are going to boom. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
No radio? No worries.
Just ask Alexa to play WSIC.
It's Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. You got 25 minutes, 15 seconds till we get to that 5 o'clock bell, and I appreciate you spending that time with us here as we're giving attention to all things economic and financial. And folks, I get it. I mean, just during the break here, it's just coming over like a waterfall. The number of questions, amount of concern, the text messages, I get it with regards to the market closure. What does that mean? Should we do anything different? Is this, I get it. We're spending a lot of time on that today. We pivoted today's show. I'm not going into several of the subject matters that I was going to touch on here because I got to talk markets here. I understand there's a lot of concern about them, so we're dedicating today's show to specifically that. But I want to highlight a point here, and don't trust me on this. You can go look at it for yourself, do your own due diligence in taking a look at where the market is overall, not just the market indexes. And this is important because, and we're guilty of this. On my side of the ledger, those folks who are in the financial industry, we're guilty of this in saying that the market indexes are an indication of where the market is overall. Folks, that's just a slice. And in some cases, I would offer up to you, especially unfortunately among the most popular stock indexes, it's a very small slice of where the overall market is. Expand that width a little bit, take a look at it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a precursor here. I'm going to ruin it a little bit as you're going to look at it. Folks, not everything's doing horribly right now. Really is not the case. And this is not me just trying to make sure the glass is half full in a proverbial sense, or to look at things, unnaturally optimistically because I'm in the financial services or the investment business. Not at all. You don't have to take my word for it at all. Take a look at where the overall market is. And you're not going to see that everything is negative right now. What you are going to see from a sector standpoint, from an let's call it from industry standpoint, or certainly in terms of specific segments of the market, you are going to see, generally speaking, not in all instances, not with all companies, but generally speaking, you're going to see that those parts of the market which have been way above the average for a significant period of time. I know this is not a new idea. If you've been listening to Dollars and Cents, it's very true here, though, that if it's been notably above the market average for a significant period of time, it is now possibly, I'll even say in some instances, likely that it is notably below the market average performance right now. And again, it's not for every stock. It's not for looking at large technology companies. It's not true that every large technology company is in the negative. But generally speaking, when you look at where the companies have been that have been notably above the average, those tend to be the ones in this kind of correctional phase that are notably below the average right now. Folks, this is not new. It's not unique. If this is not the first time this has ever happened, or that, oh my gosh, is this an indication of all kinds of other things? That part could be true. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when we're looking at it from a performance standpoint, this is not the kind of thing that stands out, at least not to folks who are in my end of the universe of thinking about these kinds of things. And that's very, very important to keep in mind. You say, well, why is it important? Why does it matter to me? Because it affects how we make our decisions. And that's what matters most here. Let me say it to you differently. I see too many folks, especially when they're in the more aggressive ends of the market, who want to buy when the prices are high and who want to sell when the prices drop. You don't have to be a mathematician. I'm certainly not a mathematician. But you don't have to be a mathematician to know that's probably not a good long-term strategy. Buy high, sell low. Right, you know how the math goes there, right? It doesn't take somebody who's very educated in that end of the realm to understand that's probably not going to work out well for the long term. But we do it. We, the investing public, especially in mass, we do it constantly, and we're doing it again right now. The largest amount of buying. I said this just before the break here in the first half of today's show here on Dollars and Cents. The fervent buying in the most popular names in the stock market happened in the fourth quarter of last year. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, not saying you're wrong, not saying that makes you a bad person, not saying that at all. But the most fervent buying in the most popular names, meaning those things which had appreciated the most, was happening in the fourth quarter of last year when things, relatively speaking, at that end of the market were at their absolute highs. Now we're seeing, as we're getting some correction, and we're going to talk about tariffs in a minute. Don't get all excited on me. We're going to talk about what tariffs are, what they mean here in just a few moments. But generally speaking, those are the folks now who are selling those same positions now whenever things have pulled back 20, 30, 40%. Folks, it's not a strategy. That's not something that sustains over the long term. I mean, you know that. You don't have to believe me. The math is very straightforward when you're looking at those kinds of things. And that's why I'm spending so much time talking on it today. That's why I'm spending so much time talking about not only where the market is today, but where it's been. And then I know we'll talk about where it's going, right? I'll tell you in advance. I don't have those answers. Nobody does. It's important, though, that your strategy is able to weather all of it. Whether it's good, whether it's not so good, you need to have a strategy that's flexible enough, financially flexible enough, to be able to weather all of it. That's what matters, because things are going to happen. I mean, did anybody know 6, 8, 10 months ago that we were going to be dealing with tariff issues here in the first quarter, second quarter of 2025? I'll tell you in advance. You can quote me on it. Go ahead and look at it. Find out how many times in the national or mass media that the word tariff was discussed 12 months ago. I'll tell you in advance. I mean, it may be a literal zero. It's certainly a figurative zero, but let's call it let's just leave it into a space where it was barely mentioned. I would be even so confident as to say it was never mentioned, but it was barely mentioned 12 months ago. Now here we are, and it is literally. I mean, it's on the top of every news cycle that I see in any kind of completeness. It's not just here in the U.S. It is around the world on all of the news cycles. The reason why I'm saying that is because 12 months ago, you couldn't have prepared for it because this wasn't even on the radar screen. It wasn't even a function of variability inside of the market algorithm. What that means is, that's a 10-cent phrase of saying, no way anybody could know that this is the way that it was going to be. That's very, very important to keep in mind. This is the lesson. This is the item to keep in mind. These kinds of things happen constantly. Now, what we did talk about 12 months ago here on Dollars and Cents, not because we're smarter than anybody else, because we're not, but what we did talk about 12 months ago is, look, hey, we're running above the average here. At a certain point, we're going to run below the average because that's what makes, wait for it, yep, the average, right? You got to run above it, you got to run below it in order to make the average. That's what comes in the middle of things here. We did know that was going to happen. We just didn't know the stimulus or the motivation that would move in that direction. It happens to be tariffs right now, or it happens to be, this larger kind of expectation of slowing growth inside of the U.S. economy. That's what happens to be moving it right now. But it had to happen at a certain point because of something. That's just technical analysis. It's not because we know anything different or better or smarter than anybody else. This is just a function of 110 years of market history. So keep that in mind from a planning standpoint. And if you're going to make changes now, and that you hear me talk about this all the time too, you heard me talk about it especially at the top end of the market, make changes into strength. That's another way of saying today may not be the reason to make any changes. Right? I don't think you want to consistently buy high and sell low. Mathematically, just doesn't work. All right, let's talk tariffs. I know we're getting tons of questions, getting tons of just what does this mean? What are we going to do with it? How long is it? Folks, nobody knows. I don't care with whom you speak. It doesn't matter what kind of algorithm you have in place. There is no algorithm that's going to appropriately give you an indication about where we're going with this. We're watching it in real time exactly as you are. So when we're looking at it, we're saying, okay, let's look at the extent, i.e. the measure, 10, 15, 20, 25% on certain sectors. And then, which nobody knows, what do we expect in terms of duration? Because that's really what the kicker is. The extent is measurable. We can have some indication about what that's going to be, but the duration, nobody knows. Is it going to be a week? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be a year? At this point, we don't have any indication that's going to be very long in duration. Is this more of a negotiating strategy? Could be. Probably it's going to be that way, at least historically. That's what it seems like is going to be the case, but we don't know it yet. So how do you have a plan that's flexible enough to be able to weather all of it? We're going to talk more about that. The fourth quarter, tune back in with us. We're going to take a few moments to hear with our sponsors here on WSIC.
Keep it right here. Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi. We'll return shortly on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, as we continue to work our way toward the weekend, the warmth will continue to build as well. The extra clouds still hanging around for a good chunk of your Thursday, but a bit more sunshine is back this afternoon. Temperatures warming up to finish things off around 80. We'll only fall back into the mid and upper 60s overnight. And are you ready for a little taste of early summer warmth? We're going to warm up close to 90 for your Friday. We could even be in the low 90s around the lake Saturday afternoon. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Friday night is the season opener for the Live Under the Oaks outdoor concert series at Birkdale Village in Huntersville. Grab your friends, family, and your lawn chairs as weekly music returns to the plaza each Friday through October. Red Rocks will be on site for beverages, and the Birkdale restaurants will be open for your Friday night dinner. The Walter Finley Band performance, powered by Waves Entertainment, kicks off at 6 p.m. Friday at Birkdale Village in Huntersville with the season premiere of Live Under the Oaks. The 500 Club in Statesville presents a weekend full of fun. On Friday, Members Happy Hour begins at 5 p.m. Also enjoy the day with Glow Golf Loop. Saturday night at midnight, enjoy a good old-fashioned drive-in movie. Call 704-872-9990 or visit the 500 Club online for more details and enjoy your weekend at the 500 Club in Statesville. The Auto Fair, presented by Camping World, is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway Thursday through Saturday. The show brings together the car community in a celebration of their shared passion for all things automotive. Don't miss the Heritage Invitational, where iconic cars from all eras are gathered for up-close viewing. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for Auto Fair tickets and more information. On Saturday, come celebrate the 5th year anniversary at Lost Worlds Brewing in Cornelius. A DJ and coffee will kick off the day at 9 a.m., while live music begins at 1 p.m. Enjoy drink specials, multiple food trucks, and free admission. We'll see you Saturday at Lost Worlds Brewing in Cornelius for their 5th year anniversary party. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Dollars and Cents continues now. Here's your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. If you're a 9-to-5er, you got 11 minutes and 55 seconds until you get to that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate you spending that time with us here. Fourth quarter, football reference of today's show. And we've been talking markets all day, folks. And I know it. I mean, if you're not one who watches the markets, that may not be as interesting to you. I get it, but we're getting emails, calls, text messages, pretty much nonstop, especially today. And that's as of the time of this live broadcast, or as of the time of this recording or the podcast, if you happen to be listening to it through one of the opportunities to listen to the recording here. But it's relevant. I mean, when you get 12, 13, 14, 15, 1,600 points down on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it in depth. We got to talk about why it's happening. We got to talk about what we expect in terms of it going forward here. We're going to do that to close out today's show. But before that, let's get a little bit anecdotal here. I can't go a whole show without talking about food. Came across a couple more collaborations here, which I find the whole collaboration thing kind of interesting. I really do. I mean, I get it. I mean, you want to do things that are a little bit new, a little bit dynamic. Boy, Hershey. I came across a couple of here. Producer Reese, you're going to have to listen to me on this. But a couple with Hershey here. So Hershey, publicly traded company, ticker symbol Henry Sam Yellow, HSY, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds. They are collaborating with Reese's. So Reese's, again, owned by Hershey. Excuse me. So Hershey owns Reese's. Excuse me on that. So Reese's owned by Hershey, not a collaboration in this one. I'll talk about a collaboration here in the next one. But Reese's owned by Hershey. They're coming out with a new flavor. Now, when I heard this one, so I like Reese's Pieces. I like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. I mean, I'm a fan all the way around. So I got to disclose that I have certain biases, and I try to disclose those. Right? I know, producer Reese, you do the same thing. I know that. They're coming out with a peanut butter and jelly flavor when it comes now. I can see you wrinkling up your nose a little bit there. When I heard this, I immediately thought of something like a jelly donut, right? So which again, very high on my radar screen. I immediately thought of something like a jelly donut. I'm for it. Peanut butter and jelly. So if you put it in a Reese's cup, a little bit of jelly along with the chocolate and the peanut butter, I'm good for it.
That's one of those I'll try it.
Okay, so you're a little bit more reserved.
Right.
Okay, so you're withholding judgment.
I'll try it. I just don't know if I'd like it or not.
See you're a much better man than I am, producer Reese, because I thought I'm gonna swan dive into that thing. That sounds good to me. That's that really. I know I'm not a hard sell. Hershey's probably knows this. They can hear me talking right now, or at least Siri can hear me talking and knows I'm not a hard sell.
And you know what's weird?
What's that?
You said you like Reese's Pieces.
I do.
I don't actually.
See, all right.
I like the cups.
See,
of course, everyone does, but I don't
how
like
interesting.
the Reese's Pieces.
So you're one of those rare breeds then that likes the Reese's peanut butter cups, but does not like Reese's Pieces. See that's interesting.
But
Okay.
also something that I think deserves an honorable mention is
absolutely.
Reese's Puff cereal.
Oh, now you're talking my language. Because why just have the candy at the end of the day, like kind of after dinner, when I can enjoy it for breakfast at the front end of my
Right.
day? I'm
Yeah.
with you. I completely agree with that. Let's have it for all meals, all 3 meals.
Yeah, use it to start your day.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. That makes actually literally perfect sense to me when you're saying that. All right, one more. Now, this is a collaboration. Now, tell me where you're going with this, because we've touched on Cinnamon Toast Crunch before. Now, we touched on Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It was around the Super Bowl. We talked about pizza flavored.
Yeah.
No. I wasn't a fan either. That wasn't something that I thought was a wise collaboration. But here's another one: Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So Cinnamon Toast Crunch, owned by General Mills. General Mills, publicly traded company. Ticker symbol Green Indian. SAM GIS. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds there. In collaboration with Hershey, again HSY. Talking about Kisses. So the Hershey's Kisses,
Okay.
but have a cinnamon toast crunch flavor in the Hershey's chocolate Kisses. Now you're talking chocolate, right? And primarily cinnamon, right? I mean, there probably are some other flavors in there.
Right.
That sounded good to me. I mean, when I'm thinking, first of all, Hershey's Kisses are one of those things where you often see them in a candy dish or candy bowl kind of thing, where it's not a big thing for me to eat. A dozen or two of those. That's not a big deal.
Right.
I mean, because they're all sitting there. I mean, why would they put so many in the candy dish if they didn't want you to eat them?
Because here's my thought process when I see them.
Yeah.
I go, they're right there.
They
I
are.
might as well just eat them.
I mean, they want us to, right? I mean, that's why they have them there, right?
Yeah, that's why they made them in the first place.
I don't want to be rude to the host or the hostess. I mean, I really don't. I mean, that's why they have them there. They want us to enjoy them.
Yeah.
Let me honor the host or the hostess by, I do the same thing.
Yep.
Anyhow, Cinnamon Toast Crunch with Hershey's Chocolate Kisses. I thought that was a good combination of things.
Based off what they've made in the past,
I mean,
the past flavors
agreed.
and collaborations, this is one of their better ones.
I would agree.
I think.
I would agree.
I can imagine it.
I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch going that pizza route for the Super Bowl. I thought that was a little bit of a stretch. They're trying to appeal to a market. I get it. It's a Super Bowl. That was overdone. I don't think that didn't make any sense to me.
Okay. No, you tried too hard.
You did
in that situation.
You did.
So.
I mean, just let it go. Okay, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, maybe not an appeal for Super Bowl watchers or Super Bowl aficionados. It's okay to let that one go. Let's just come into something like what they're doing here. With Hershey's Kisses, makes perfect sense.
Right.
Coming into Easter season, who wouldn't like that?
Yeah, that's a perfect.
Makes perfect sense.
Timing.
Makes perfect sense. All right, let's keep going here. Talking markets here in the last couple of minutes of today's show, and I appreciate you hanging with us here, folks. Thank you. I mean, we've talked a lot about the markets. Frankly, we've talked all about the markets today. We've set aside the majority, and we got to talk about food as well. That's that other word that begins with the letter F that we like to talk about here. There are a couple of words that begin, including football, that we like to talk about here on Dollars and Cents. But no, we're talking a lot about the markets because we get tons of calls, tons of emails, tons of text messages talking about or asking questions about, what do we expect? So let's talk about it in a go forward kind of way. We talked about where we are. We talked about kind of the things that were setting us up in 2024, first quarter of this year, knowing that there was going to be some level of pullback, right? Some level of selling that had to happen, at least technically speaking, at some point. What was going to be the impetus? What was going to be the motivation for that? We didn't know. Nobody knew. And now we're in this space where it's happening. Popular media is pointing towards tariffs. Folks, this had to happen. Whether it was tariffs or anything else, geopolitically, economically, that had to happen in order for this to happen. When things are running above the average, at a certain point, they have to run below the average in order to make, you got it, you hear me say this enough, the average. It's very important when you're looking at these kinds of things. So when we're having this kind of pullback, again, when you hear folks like me saying this is not only very, very natural, but it's expected that we would have this kind of space. So then what do we expect for the balance of the year then? That's that multi-trillion-dollar question, to which, I know, spoiler alert, nobody has the answer. But we take a look at where things have been, understanding market-wise, what tends to be the trends coming out of this kind of space, so that we can, in some broad-based way, make some assumptions about what we yet expect for the balance of the year. So what do we expect at this point? I expect that things are going to continue to be turbulent. This is not a push button, this is going to resolve overnight kind of thing when it comes to this tariff process with other countries. Now, let me also tell you in advance, and this is not because I have some kind of magic wand or some kind of ball of wisdom that nobody else has. I promise you that when certain announcements are going to be made, either about the reduction in tariffs or about some kind of compromise with certain countries over certain issues, the market is going to spike significantly right away into the green. I'm just telling you, all these are recorded. Get on the WSIC app. You can quote me on this. They're going to spike significantly into the green, and the positive in the short run. And the reason for that is because that's what markets do. Markets try to be anticipatory. If this is going to happen, this is where it might go. So we want to get ahead of what the final result may be, and that's how markets move. So I'm just telling you that in advance, that as announcements are made that are not as, let's call them punitive as where we are right now, that the market is going to spike notably in the positive in the very short run after that happens. But that doesn't necessarily hold, because we need to then expand our awareness and expand our understanding to say, okay, so if I'm going to look at the automobile industry, they happen to be pretty much the top of the fold, top of the headlines right now, not only in terms of finished car products, but also for car parts that are made outside of the U.S. So what happens instead of 25%, it's reduced to 10%. I'll tell you in advance, you're going to get a green spike, meaning a positive spike, not only in car part and car manufacturers, but in pretty much anybody that's along the supply chain end of things. Does that mean it's going to be rosy for all of those folks in perpetuity? No, it's not. It never works that way. That's not how the system works, not how the market works. That's not how the supply chain works. That's not how the system moves in growth at all. So when we're looking at that kind of thing, what do we anticipate then in terms of the overall macro growth? Well, we got some headwinds out there. We got some things about which we need to be concerned. We still have higher than normal interest rates. When I say higher than normal, I say higher than what we've had over the last 15 years. Now, if you expand your depth of understanding to be, say, over the last 70 years, you're saying, well, this is actually pretty normal, and you're correct. But we got a whole legion of folks who have never experienced anything that's close to normal. So what does that mean in terms of what we can expect from the market going forward? It's going to be turbulent. It's going to be lots of ups and downs. You're going to have some superlative days. You're going to have some days that really pull back, but you're going to want to be focused on those kinds of trend level things that are going to be more measurable over longer periods of time than just the days and weeks that are ahead. And that's what's going to serve you well for the long term. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to make sure to give your concentration in those levels so that you're making your decisions, again, based on those trends, not just what's happening in the day-to-day. Friends, I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents. It's a fun time. We're going to be coming back next week here on WSIC, 4 o'clock on Thursdays, here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial.
Better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260